Hey, everybody. I'm going to attempt to do something I've never done before, and that is over the last few days, I had 3 different people. In fact, these are the people right here individually email me asking me and giving me examples. How did this person do this or accomplish this in photography as a photo artist? And since I have nothing to watch by, it's going to be a total guess. So I'm going to try to give them direction as to how they might approach this. But there's no way I can convey this in an email. So that's why I'm recording this for them. Hopefully you'll learn something. I'm excited that they got inspired by these photographs that I'm going to share with you. So let's get into it. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you're new to the channel, this is dedicated to photography and as a photo artist, pushing ourselves creatively out of the box. Okay, this is going to be totally new for me because I actually accumulated 3 different situations with 3 different viewers of this channel. And basically they were asking, hey, I love this person's work in a sense. How did they do that? And they couldn't find any instructions. In fact, one person mentioned, I don't even know if the person's still around at all because they tried to contact that person. So here's the 3 things I'm going to cover and demo for you a little bit. One has to do with textures. The other one has to do with painting in Photoshop. And the other one has to do with something I can't explain until you see it. And I'll show you how I might approach this. And I'm going to do some befores and afters for you. Okay, so let's get started with the very first one, and that is textures. So let's get to it. All right, let's take a look at the first situation. I didn't get permission to use their name, so I'm going out on a limb. I'm just putting their first name and last name initial. And the situation here is they got inspired. So I want to talk about inspiration first because I've done that in the past. And also I talked a concept called modeling. What in the heck is modeling? Because I'm really framing this as modeling after inspiration. Modeling just means that I'm following somebody that has done something that I really would like to do, and they're going to help me get from point A to B real fast. The problem with this situation is they're not able to watch how these people did what they did. So they're asking me, how do you think they did it? So I'm going to make an attempt to cover, how I would approach this. But what I like the fact is that they got inspired. Remember, inspiration without action is nothing more than you have just been entertained. So I'm happy that they're excited to move forward with this. Let's start out with the very first one. And the issue I got was, do you think she did the same technique that you did in the past called texture blending art? And I'm going to review this really fast here, but if you didn't see that video, the link is in the show notes. I'm not going to walk through how to do that, but the work that this gal, this gal did is using textures, but in a basic generic way, not a more creative way like I did in the video. So again, if you didn't see the video I did in the past, link is in the show notes. This is the end result of what I taught in that video. So let's take a look at this real fast. Number one, when you look at these images, and again, texture blending art, you're going to find that when I worked on this project as an example, you don't see the entire background that was used in this. And I was using flow techniques and brushes to do this type of work. Same thing here and here. So yes, I'm using textures, but I'm doing it in a different way. So let's jump over to a website, and I'll put the link to this if you want to follow this young lady's work right here. And it's Samantha Cavett. And so again, the link is in the show notes. And when I got the email that was sent to me, asked, do you think she did the way that you did a few weeks ago? And the answer is not really. Yes, she used textures, but in a generic way. So I'm going to demo that for you. But take a look at her work. Nice work that she's doing. And so let me show you the approach on just generically using textures. And again, because I'm not watching this person do this, I'm taking a guess how this came across, but it has, an artistic look to it. So let's jump into a basic project, which will be the cheetah again. So let's do that. So let me close out of this. And we don't need this. And I'm going to jump back over here to Photoshop. Okay, so here in Photoshop, I'm going to go to, let's go texture. I'm just going to open up these two. I might add another texture because I don't want you to think that you can only use one texture. But this is the cheetah project I did. And again, the link is in the show notes. And this is a texture that I use. In fact, I actually did 2 textures, but I'm just going to use the one for right now. I'm going to click and drag and drop this in. Control T, Command T on a Mac. I need to pull back on this so I can see everything and make that fit. Now, this is just generically using textures here. And obviously, you need to have some textures to do this. And then just going to the blending mode and choosing something. Like I'm just going to stop at overlay. So you can see there is a difference, right? Before, after, before, after. So not to limit just using a basic texture, I'm going to grab one I have in my library here. And I'm going to click and drag and drop that in. Control T, Command T on a Mac. I just want to make sure it's covering the whole thing. Enter on the keyboard. And again, you can just keep building on this. You're not limited to one texture. And again, I'm just sort of playing with this. Like maybe I'm going to go strong with vivid light and I'm going to pull back the opacity on this. But if you go to the video I did on texture blending art, I'm using textures, but in a different way. This is just a very generic way. And if you think the colors are too strong or saturated, because it depends on the textures that you use, I'm just going to go over here to the Oreo cookie dipped in milk and choose a fairly new feature we have in Photoshop now, color vibrance. And over here, I can maybe, if I want to make that cooler or add more warmth to that, that's up to me. Maybe pull the vibrance down on that. And so you can see it before and after. So it does have an artistic look and feel to it. But here's a downfall you need to know about working with just textures generically, whether you're using 1, 2, or 3 textures you're applying on top of a project. You will find and discover certain textures that work really well with an image. You go, that combination is incredible. It really came out nice. So then you open up a different image and you want to apply the same textures, and you find out for some reason it just doesn't have the look that you want. And that's a minor downfall to textures, because the way things come out in textures is really based on your image, the colors that are used in the image, the way it blends in. And if you try it on, the same textures on a different image and it's different colors, it's like, it didn't come out right. So that's why it's important to have an entire library of textures that you've accumulated over time so you can experiment on which ones would work better. By the way, just with this, I'll give you an example you might play with. I'm going to come to this image down here on this layer. I'm just going to do Control J, Command J on a Mac to duplicate that. Because what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go over and I'm just going to go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Should have made this a smart object layer, but I'm going to live on the edge here. And I'm just going to blur this image a bit so you can see before and after. So I'm going to over-exaggerate this a little bit. And then I'm going to add a mask to this layer. So I'm going to come down here in layers. There's my mask. Grab my paintbrush, B for brush. I'm painting in black at 100%. And I just want to come in with a soft brush just to bring in the eyes and stuff in the face of the cheetah. So I get that kind of look. So you can see the sort of a before and after on this. Because maybe I don't want everything totally sharp. I want some softness around it. So you could do something like that. But again, this is just using textures generically. So hopefully gave you direction on how you might approach your projects to look similar to what she did in the website I just shared with you. All right, so now let's jump into the next situation and a question that came up with painting in Photoshop. So let's do it. Okay, this next situation, hopefully I understand the email that he sent me. And basically he converted an image to art, and he came up with this that we see here in Photoshop. And he was wondering, how can I actually do this in Photoshop? I'm assuming without AI. One of the challenges we have with AI, by the way, if you do something like this, is the inconsistency. Sorry about that. In other words, I want the same look all the time, and I'm not getting it with AI. Now, AI will get better at it, but right now, sometimes it just jumps all over the place as to the look, and you just want that same look, say, on a series of images right there. And so you have better control if you're doing things by itself. So number one, I don't know if this person saw a video I did, weeks, if not months ago, and that is painting with brushes in Photoshop. So the link is in the show notes. Please, please, I beg you, go back and watch that. I'm going to show you how I approach this if you want to do this in Photoshop, not use AI. I did the techniques like I did before in that video, and I'm just going to show you. This is the image I worked with, so obviously we need to start with some type of image that you took, and then this is the end results, and I'm going to break this down for you. I don't have time to go through the painting process. That's why I'm referencing. Go watch the video. Again, the link is in the show notes. That's what I did, but I want to emphasize something. In that video, we started out with very rough areas on the outside, and as we got closer in to the subject, we would get it, say, more in focus and more in focus. So in this, what I did was I did it more in focus even on the outside, but not as much as I came in to the face right there. And then this is the image. Let me show you. This is the photograph, and this is what I ended up with. So let's break this down. I did the painting technique, again, in the show notes. Go follow that link. And then what I did was I applied a mask to this to actually, let me turn it on and off. Look at the eyes and part of the hair. Hopefully that's showing up in the video. So I'm bringing in the sharpness back into the eyes and a little bit into the hair, but yet I have that softness that was done with the brushes and stuff. I don't think those are going to show up too well on a video because they compress the videos, but that's what I did. And then I just came over here to add a color overlay right here. So you'll find that if I go over here to the Oreo cookie dipped in milk, you'll see the feature here. Come down here to photo filter. So I added photo filter, and I chose this color. You could change the color, but it's just the warm filter here, and it's at 66%. And obviously that's going to vary based on your image. And then what I did was I added this feature here, which is the new one we have on the Oreo cookie dipped in milk again, and that's color and vibrance. So that allows you to, hey, I want to make this cooler. I want to make this, warmer. So if you find that your colors are just too warm, you could adjust that based on your look and needs, but the way you want it, and maybe even the vibrance. You want to pull the vibrance down a little bit, and maybe go over there just to tweak that a little bit. So there's a before and after. Let me turn it. Whoops. Sorry about that. There's a before, after. So that's the way I would approach this if you're not going to use AI in Photoshop. That's what I'm assuming you were asking, is how can I do something similar to this without using AI? That's the way I would approach it. So again, just to recap, by the way, if you're learning anything here in these videos, if you like the idea of me dissecting stuff like that and how would I approach doing things like this, please like the video, subscribe if you've not subscribed, hit that notification bell. Next time I upload a video, you'll get notified on that. The other thing I want to mention too, before I move into the very last one, is this is very time consuming for me, especially the last one that I'm going to share with you. And so I can't do this often because it does take a lot of time. But I like the fact that you're curious as how did this person do this, and how would I approach to do something very similar to that. So hopefully this is helpful for you. And now let's move into the very last one. Okay, and the last one has to do with this person, and this is the most challenging one. I actually talked to different photographers on that to get their opinion. Anyhow, he was asking me, and he said he tried to get a hold of the person that did this, doesn't know if the person is still around at all, but this image right here versus this image right here and this image right here. And there were other ones, but I don't want to throw a bunch of images out there, but it's sort of that look where there's sort of like a light source washed out behind there. And so when I showed this to some of my friends, photographers, they were telling me, oh, well, that's got to be backlit with a ghost filter. And I go, what? A what filter? Yeah. And so they shared this with me. So I'm going to jump over here on the internet to go to this website. No affiliation with them. I investigated this for myself. It's called Walking Way, and they create actually different filters that you could stack or apply on your lens to come up with different looks. It's worth going there. The link will be in the show notes for you. So if I come down here to take a look at all the different ones here, I forgot where the ghosting one is at. Oh, there it is right here. So if I click on this, one of the things about these filters, when you put them on your lens and you have to tell them what millimeter size lens you have, you can actually rotate that filter to adjust what you're getting as the end result. And they said, oh, he probably used a backlight with a strobe behind, so you can see part of the strobe coming back into the camera. And they just adjusted a ghost filter. So if you take a look at this is the filter right there. I'll just show you some examples. Now that's way out of line, but this is getting closer. So if that was backlit, I'd probably get the same result. But he was asking, could this be done in Photoshop? And I'm going, man, I don't know. But again, that's the filter. So you might want to take a look at that and see the looks that you get with the filter, adjusting it with a backlight. Now, you might not have lights or a studio to work with this to do this, but that's why I probably would approach it. But if I have to say, hey, Steve, you got to use Photoshop, here's how I would try to do what you just shared with me. So let's get into Photoshop right now. All right, so back in the Photoshop, let's just review the images right there. I'm going to close out of that, and that one. So first of all, I'm going to start with two images. One is the photograph, and the other one is this overlay. Now, where did I get this? I actually created that in a program that I own as a major plugin to Photoshop called Boris FX Optics. I've talked about this in the past. I've used this in the past. I'm not here to teach this program. You could, look it up or whatever. I have no affiliation with them. I was a beta tester when they first came out with this a few years ago, and I had to pay for the product. I just got a deeper discount. So I want to get that out of the way, that even though I'm mentioning this, I do not gain any, finance from, or I have no financial incentive to share this with you to go out to buy it. Take a look at it, get the trial version. But I created this in that program. That's one of the things why I like the program. I could use stuff they already have built, modify it, or start with a starting point and then totally change and modify it, and then save this out as a JPEG. So this is the image I'm working with, and just a little bit of light here. And here's how I would approach it in Photoshop. And there's a pitfall to doing this, which I'll mention in a few minutes, but Control-J, Command-J in a Mac to duplicate this. And with the layer selected right here, the very top one, I'm just going to choose from my contextual taskbar to select the subject. Now, again, if that's not active for you, you go to Windows drop-down menu in Photoshop. Toward the bottom, you will see contextual taskbar. I just anchored mine at the very top here, and I'm just going to choose select subject, which sort of freaks me out because I'm going to tell you a few years ago, it wouldn't do a good job like that. And then I'm going to add a mask. So I'm going to come down here in layers, click on this icon right there to add a mask. So you can see that it cut it out. And now what I'm going to do is I'm on the mask right here. I'm going to come down to the FX, basically means special effects. Click on that, and I'm choosing a feature in there called Inner Glow. Now when I chose Inner Glow, and this dialog box opens up, I want to make sure that you know that I had this set, because your default's not going to be set to this. It's set to linear light. The color is white. So if I click on that, it opens up my color picker, make sure it's on white. And then the opacity is way out here. So let me just make the opacity to the left. And now I push it to the right. So it's up to you how far you want to go with the opacity. The noise, well, we're not going to add any noise. And then down here, the choke is this versus that. And again, I'm just going to maybe up that to about 2 on the choke, and then the size. Pull this back, pushes all the way to the right. So it's a judgment call with you and your image, how far you go. So let's say I'm going to go about that far, and then click on OK to accept it. Now here's the trick in Photoshop. I don't need it all over the image like that. I only want it in that certain spot, like around here, say by the head on that one side. So what I'm going to do where it says Inner Glow, because that's what I just added here, I'm going to right mouse click on this, and I'm going to choose Create Layer. Now, I'll get a little warning on this. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. I think I turned that warning off. But what it does is it creates a separate layer with that effect on it. So there's my linear light. So if I turn this on and off, you can see how that effect is there. It's important for it to be on a separate layer because now I get to do this. I'm going to add a mask on that layer, grab my paintbrush, B for brush, make sure it's a soft edge brush. I'm painting back at 100%, right here, 100% opacity. And I'm thinking, okay, I don't need it all over here. So I'm brushing out what I don't want. So I might want it right here, and I just want to get rid of it on this side of her face and body. So this is the before and after. So I have that right there. Hopefully that makes sense. Now with the light, because I don't have a light source in the back there at all. So what I want to do is come over here to the overlay I created in Optics with this here. I'm going to click and drag it in to my project. Let go. Control T, Command T on a Mac to resize this. So let me pull out on this so you can see the whole thing. And the beautiful thing about this, now when I bring this over, I need to change my blending mode. I've talked about this before. Blending modes, when you have a black background, which is really important on this, you use screen blending mode. Now there is a downfall to this I'm going to talk about in a minute, but now that I have that, if I do Control T, Command T on a Mac, and I decide to resize this to make it bigger or smaller based on your vision on this, I can hold the Shift key down to make it fatter. I can hold the Shift key down and come over here and pull it down to make it bigger. So you adjust it based on your vision on what you want to do. And I'm going to move that up about, say, right there by the head. And then enter on the keyboard. And then you can adjust the opacity and things like that. But what I might do on this example is, if it's on top of her, I'm going to click and drag and drop it so it's below her like this. And because I have this in front, I can create that illusion. And again, hopefully that makes sense right there. So when I turn this on and off, you see what's going on. And then I could add a mask here. And I got a little bit of a line on the bottom here. I don't know if that's showing up in the video. So with a big soft brush, I'm just going to swipe in there. Whoops, let's first made a mistake. Let's add the mask, Steve. Now I'm on the mask right there. And let's click and drag just to get rid of that line. So when I do the before and after. Now, one of the things you're going to see here, hopefully it shows up, is banding a little bit. And again, with the mask, I can come over here to the edge and just try to get some of that banding out. But here's what's important. I can still see it there. Hopefully it shows up on the video. When you're working with an overlay with the black like this, you're going to get banding if you're working with an image that is 8-bit. If I look at the status bar here, I can see the 8. That tells me the image is 8-bit. So my suggestion is make sure that you shot this in RAW, made the adjustment in RAW to bring it into Photoshop, and it will be 16-bit. You will get better results with less banding. I could, but again, the information of 16-bit is not there. I'm starting with an 8-bit image. I could go to the image drop-down menu here and choose mode and change that to 16-bit. I'll get a little bit of an improvement, but not that much. Now, I did visually see that, so it did help that. But initially, if I started with 16-bit, I would get better results, and I wouldn't get that banding that you're going to get with an 8-bit image. I mean, this is how I would approach this using Photoshop. And again, I would play with the size of that behind there. But it would be tempting to use maybe continuous light or a strobe behind the person, have it pointing toward the lens a little bit. So that's called a lens flare or whatever. But with that ghosting filter, make the adjustment, trial and error to get that look that you need. Maybe you can get it right out of the shot right away. I mean, I can't guarantee that, but I was just curious when I had other photographers come up to me and say, oh, there was a ghosting filter, and they knew about this. And I go, what is that? I've never heard about it. Because again, you got to realize I'm coming from a background of not only doing compositing, but I'm doing traditional photography of children, family portraits, that kind of stuff. Models, but also like high school seniors and weddings, where I'm not doing that creative stuff with filters, with a light source behind the subject, that kind of thing. So that is totally new to me. It might be something I might take a look at in the future. I stuck it in my diary, the link to that website, because I might purchase one of those filters or two. Some of those aren't that expensive. They're like $39, $49. I'll keep my eye on Black Friday, the discounts, hopefully for the holidays. Maybe they're going to discount something deeper. And if that's the case, I might jump on the filter, but I probably won't have time to use it until maybe next year. But again, thank you for the 3 people that sent me these things. I like what you're doing. You're inspired. You want to follow up that with action, because otherwise it's nothing more than I've just been entertained. But this last one this is how I would approach it. If you're holding a gun to me saying, no, you got to do this 100% in Photoshop, this is my approach. So hopefully that was helpful to you. Again, if you're learning anything, please like the video, subscribe if you're not subscribed, hit that notification bell. The next time I upload a video, you get notified on that. And again, I'm just going to end this like I normally do, and that is, let's get the camera out. Let's make mistakes. Why? We learn from making mistakes. Let's think creatively out of the box, and I mean literally out of the box. Until next time, see ya.